Hello, college writing students. You might be wondering if I ever change clothes. Why though? Okay, so you're working on an essay. It's an analytical essay. And a lot of what we have been talking about is the focus of that essay and the kinds of support that you need to use in that essay. We've been looking at the big picture. But I don't want you to lose sight of details, even as you're composing. A lot of the details you'll take care of in editing, but even as you're composing the essay, you're thinking not only about the big picture, but you're thinking sentence by sentence. How do you compose sentences? So one thing that we need to get used to thinking about as writers is variety of sentence structures. We want to write with sentences that are different in length, some shorter, some longer, and that are structured in different ways. They don't always start with the subject and the verb and then move on from there. They're arranged in different ways. And we will talk another time or two about different ways that you can construct sentences. Why do you need variety in your sentence structure? One is just for the sake of variety. It makes your writing more interesting. If all of your sentences have a similar structure or a similar length or both, your writing gets repetitive sounding. It gets monotonous. It is not fun to read. So just to make it interesting, you want variety in the length and structure of your sentences. Also, you're going for a certain amount of grace. You want a pleasing feel to your writing, and changing up the sentence structure will do that. But, of course, you don't want to just have a variety of sentence structures willy-nilly, randomly. There are some other factors to consider. One of them we've talked about before, and that is coherence. As you decide how to structure your sentences, you are thinking about the chain of coherence. And I believe we've talked about that before. If I'm wrong, somebody can alert me so we can come back to it. What I mean by that is that you, at the beginning of a sentence, you want to bring up things that you've already discussed, bring up something that is familiar, and then shift to something that is new. Familiar to new. That is a chain of coherence. So we structure our sentences in such a way as to create that chain. The other consideration, and the one I want to focus on today, is emphasis. I'm going to actually write that word on the book. You are constructing sentences in such a way as to put emphasis on the word or idea where you want the emphasis. When we talk, we have lots of ways of doing that. We talked about this in speech class. You can emphasize something with your voice, right? By getting louder, by pausing before the word, by drawing out the word. We have lots of ways. But in writing, you can't do that. You have some typographical tricks, right? You can italicize a word or put it in bold or underline it. But good writing does not use tricks like that, or it uses them sparingly. Good writing achieves emphasis through the way that a sentence is structured. So how do you do that? First of all, it's good to remember, and I talked too long and have to wake up the computer now. It's good to remember that there are two kinds of clauses: subordinate clauses and main clauses. So you can subordinate an idea. You can also coordinate main ideas. Just to remind you, here are a couple of examples where we are subordinating. Although many candidates have fallen, one still stands. Talking about the Democratic primaries. Here's our subordinating conjunction, although it makes this first part of the sentence less important, subordinate to the main idea, which is one still stands. So the emphasis in this sentence is at the end. Point here, if you want to emphasize something, you never put it in a subordinating, after a subordinating conjunction. You never put it in a subordinate clause. Here's another example. The news, which is available through a plethora of sources, needs to be reliable. Now, the word which is not a subordinating conjunction, it's a relative pronoun, meaning it relates this part of the sentence to the word news. But it also serves to make it subordinate. So this middle part of the sentence is kind of subordinated. The main clause, the news, needs to be reliable. So we've made that the emphasized thought. Okay. You can also have two main clauses and coordinate them. So, where's my cursor? Here we go. Teachers can dispense content asynchronously. That means that you can look at it anytime you want, or they can try to bring everybody together online to share content. Two main clauses. Teachers can do this, or they can do this. They have equal emphasis because neither one of them is subordinated. Same here. There is much less contact time, but some students and teachers find themselves working even more time. Less contact time, but even more time working. Equally emphasized, pretty much, because we are coordinating them, not subordinating one. Nevertheless, I don't think the emphasis is exactly equal in those examples. So besides whether you put something in a main clause or subordinate clause, you change emphasis by where you put something in a sentence. And the same thing is true in sentences as is true with essays. The places that make the biggest impact, that readers are most likely to remember, are beginnings and endings. If you want to emphasize something, you put it at the beginning of a sentence or at the end of a sentence. And I feel like the ending has even more oomph than the beginning. The most emphatic place in a sentence is the end. So, even more time is the most emphasized thing, I would say, in this sentence. But much less contact time is also pretty emphasized, just not quite as heavily as what we get to at the end. So, where in a sentence can you emphasize? Beginning and end. You're going to do an exercise in which I give you a set of sentences and I ask you to combine them into a longer sentence. But you're not just combining them once. You're going to combine them 3 or 4 times in different ways, each time trying to put the emphasis on something different. So you're rearranging your sentence to change the emphasis. Let me give you an example. So here are 3 sentences that I'm going to combine in different ways. Almost everything is relative in physics. Some people see everything as relative in ethics. Some people believe in absolute right and wrong. 3 sentences. I can combine them in different ways. One is to emphasize the possibility that ethics are relative. So I'm going to end with that. Here we go. Just as almost everything in physics is relative, so many people reject the idea of an absolute right and wrong. They insist that questions of ethics are also relative. I could combine these sentences in a way that emphasizes the idea that there are absolutes in ethics. I'm going to rearrange now. It's true that almost everything in physics is relative. But while some people view ethics in the same relativistic way, many believe that right and wrong are absolute realities. In this version, I ended with absolute realities. That's what gets the most emphasis. So, the way that you arrange a sentence is partly about what you want to emphasize in that sentence. You're going to try that in your exercise today, and I hope you will think about that as you're writing your essay and other things. Let me know if you have questions, and God bless you.